All right, everybody, can I have your attention? Headphones, please. No headphones. So look, you wrote down your objective for today. By the way, if you're absent any day, put absent on that day on your warm-up. Did you write down the top sentence? I can solve equations and inequalities using Desmos. And did you write down the word Chromebook on the big warm-up section, right? Okay, and you already logged into Chromebook, into Launchpad, and you click Desmos under the math folder, or you typed in Desmos to get to it. It should look green like this picture here. Okay, now what we're doing today, you know all the solving we've been doing? Either you love it or you may not love it so much, right? Do y'all remember using the yellow calculators before? And maybe your teacher taught you about n-solve. That made things a lot easier. Basically just give you the answer, right? There's a way to do that, but we don't care about the yellow calculator because we can't use that on the STAR test or the EOC test. We can only use Desmos. So guess what? There's a way to check your answer in Desmos, and that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Let's take a look at this. Make sure you're on the side that says solving equations, not inequalities, solving equations, okay? All right, I need everyone locked in. This is going to make your life so much easier, so just make sure you're looking, okay? All right, here we go. First things first, here's the problem. Do y'all see this problem at the top here? 9 parentheses, x minus 4, all this stuff. Now, right now, you should be able to solve that by hand. You should. We talked about distributing, combining like terms, getting rid of the smaller x, getting rid of the loner, and dividing. Technically, I think you should be able to solve this by hand. Whether or not you do, there's a way to check your answer or to get the answer using Desmos, okay? Which will be really nice, right? Just to go straight to the answer sometimes, okay? Especially if you have a big test like the EOC or a unit test where your grade really matters, you definitely want to check it at least, okay? So here's the deal. Step 1, does everyone see it? Step 1 says, check your variables. To use Desmos calculator to solve, you can not, this is a typo, but you cannot use x or y. So look, we started with x on this formula. You can't use x, okay? So here's what I like to remember. We used to call it n-solve, right? So instead of x, we're going to use an n. Sound good? So if you see an x, you need to rewrite it, retype it, but you need to use n instead. Okay? Now you can use any letter besides x or y if you really want to. Use a if you want, okay? But I'm going to use n. Think of it like an n-solve. Use the letter n, okay? So no x's. Turn them into n's magically, okay? Now that's if you type that in, it's still not going to give you the answer, okay? Step 2, what does it say? You got to change your equal sign to a squiggle, whatever that is, right? I think the technical name is a tilde or a tilde, I don't know. But if you look at your keyboard, right on the top left, underneath the escape sign, escape button, there's a squiggle, okay? So that squiggle is going to actually give you the answer. So if you don't use an equal sign, if you type it with the squiggly sign, if you type it just like this, it should give you the answer, okay? Now all this is on your paper, by the way, just so you know. You have it right in front of you. So look at that's step 2. Step 3, okay? Type it in. Now, when you type it in, even before you hit enter, it's going to tell you some information. And the only thing that matters is where it says parameters, okay? The parameters we get is n equals 13. That's the answer. Easy, okay? All you got to do is maybe turn it back into an x equals. So it says n equals 13. All right, now replace n back with x equals 13. Can you type an equation in, replacing x with the letter n and replacing equals with the tilde, squiggle? I think you can, right? Wouldn't that be a lot easier? Okay, so if you're struggling with solving, this is totally fine to do from now on, just saying, okay? I don't want you using photo math, okay? I know it exists, okay? Because you can't use photo math on the EOC STAR test, but you can use this, I promise. Okay, so learn this. That's what we're doing today. Let's try it. Let's try number 1 here. Okay, can we, everybody, try to do this right here, right now? Everybody, I want you to try typing this in to Desmos. Okay, I'll give you a second. Try to type it in, but remember, x needs to be n, and the equal sign needs to be a squiggle. Okay, let's drag this over, and then all right, so I'm gonna start typing it in. 3.7 plus 2.75. Now, trick question, can you use k? Well, k is not x, so technically, k is okay. But just to be consistent, so just I'm doing an n, why not? Oh, I was tempted to type equal sign, but remember, no equal sign. Now, by the way, if you can't find the tilde, the squiggle, if you hit the ABC, it's going to be right down here on the bottom, underneath the N, coincidentally, which is what we use. So squiggle, 27.35. Before I even hit enter, it's going to tell me the parameter is 8.6. So what's my answer? 8.6, right? So go ahead and write that down here. N equals, so I'm going to go back to K. K equals 8.6. Try the next two for me, please. Okay. Were you doing that symbol? Okay. Well, it might have you been logged in before? Oh, okay. So go to either type in Desmos in the search bar of the Launchpad, or you can look at the math folder and then Desmos. Yes. So let's do number 2. So we're typing it in. I'm going to exit this out. So 3 parentheses 2. Now we don't put x, right? Right. So we don't use x, we use n, right? Plus 2 parentheses minus 3. Instead of x, we use n, equals 6 plus 3x, but we're going to use the letter n. Okay. Now this doesn't work because I used an equal sign. So remember, it's got to be tilde, squiggly, squiggly. Okay. So remember, if you're not getting an answer, did you use x? Did you use equal? Okay. Now this says n equals 0. I'm here to tell you, 0 is not an answer. Okay, when it comes to this stuff. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that means here. So over here, n equals 0 is what I'm going to write over here. Okay, we're going to make some notes right now, so make sure you're following what I'm writing. Okay, but you can't have n equals 0. Okay, so write this off to the left here. N cannot equal 0. Okay, so if n equals 0, like if you look at it and you see, hey, There's an equals 0 right here. Well, I'm here to tell you it's one of two things. And you got to see above this where it says statistics RMSE right here. There are two possibilities, okay? If RMSE equals 0, or if RMSE equals a number. So if RMSE equals 0, then we're going to call that all real numbers. Think of it like a line on top of another line. They touch everywhere. Everywhere is a solution, okay? All the numbers in the world would be correct. But if RMSE equals a number that's not 0, well, that means there is no solution, does not exist, okay? Okay, so all this was a bunch of notes, okay? So when n is 0, you got to look at the RMSE, which, what does that mean? I don't really know, okay? It has to do with the accuracy of what you're doing here. But let's go back to the graph and look at it. On this graph, the RMSE was 0, okay? So the answer is not 0. Since RMSE equals 0, the answer is going to be all real numbers. For number 3, because the RMSE equals 0. Let's try number 3. Can you plug in number 3 in the calculator and see if you get an answer or 0? If it's 0, you got to tell me what kind of solution is it? All or none, okay? Come on. There we go. So we're doing the next one. So 3n minus 13. And then we're going to squiggle 7 parentheses n plus 2 minus 4 parentheses n minus 7. So I typed it in with n's and a squiggle, and I got n equals 0 again. Well, n can't equal 0. So let's look at the RMSE. That's a number. That's not 0, right? So we said if you get a number that's not 0, it does not exist. It's like two parallel lines. They never touch. They never cross. So there's no solution, okay? So when the RMSE is some number greater than 0, the answer is going to be no solution. Make sure you have that written down because we're going to flip it over and do the backside, okay? So either it's going to give you an answer for sure, or if it's 0, it's either going to be all numbers or no solution, okay? So those are the weird situations you might see, but normally it just gives you a number, an answer to your equation, okay? Flip it over. That's equations, but we need to talk about inequalities, the last things we've been doing, right? The last 2 assignments. What if it's a less than greater than situation? What do we do with that? Now, I regret to inform you that the rules for inequalities are totally different. Okay? So everything you did on equations, like forget it. Look at the back page, ready? All right, here we go. Everyone's looking. This is brand new. Hey, in the back, look. So, y'all see this inequality, this less than equal sign, right? You got this whole thing. Step one, it says check your variables. Now look, you have to use X. On inequalities, you do have to use X, okay? The front of the page, equations, no X allowed, but on the back side, inequalities, you have to use X. So look, the original inequality, I think you can solve this by hand already. But either way, we're going to check our work this way. If it has an M, it's not going to work. You got to turn it into an X, okay? So step one, it needs to be an X. I've said it like 2 or 3 times. Does everyone understand that? It has to be X for an inequality. Step two, and this is just random and weird, but it's only going to work if you use brackets, okay? So look, you're going to take that original thing, make sure it's X's, and then make sure that you have it inside of brackets. Now look at your Chromebook. You have brackets right next to the letter P, okay? So it's on your keyboard, or on Desmos, you can get it on the little, buttons that they give you. Now, here's what happens. When you graph an inequality with brackets and the letter X, it's actually going to give you that number line looking thing that we've been doing, okay? Can I get more people looking over here? Look, okay? So if it gives you a number line, wherever it ends, you go straight down, and that's the number you're going to use, right? So here's the end point, 3. We got to use 3, right? And the original letter was M, so we can put M, and we can put 3, and then look, which way is it going, left or right? It's going to the right. So if it goes to the right, is that a less than or greater than? Greater than, okay? So look, the original one was a less than sign, but I don't care what the original is. I care about this thing that it spits out on Desmos. So if it goes to the right, you got to use a greater than because it goes to the right. And then here's the next question. How do you know if it's underlined or not? If the original is underlined, the answer will be underlined. If the original is not underlined, the answer will not be underlined, okay? So when it gives you the little graph, that's going to tell you a couple things. What's the number, which direction? You should be able to write your own inequality. Okay, let's try some examples. Number 1 here. All right, on number 1, go ahead and start typing this in. It needs to be X, but we already have X, so that's great. All right, so let's start typing this in. -3, oh, by the way, before we start typing it in, it has to be inside of brackets. So either you can click ABC to get the brackets down here at the bottom, or you can press next to on your keyboard, Shift, and then the button next to the letter P. But brackets, -3, parentheses, 2x plus 7, parentheses. Now, to get the symbol on your Desmos, again, everything in Desmos is in this button right here, right? So you click that, and then you got the symbol greater than or equal 2x plus 19. Before you even hit the last bracket, it pops it up on your graph, okay? And you can see what number is it right above. What the end of it is right above -5. Do y'all see that on yours? Does it look different when it's expanded? So if yours looks like this, -5 is halfway between -4 and -6, right? So this is -5. All right, so we're going to put our answer. X, and then we're going to put -5. Well, here's the question. What is my symbol? If it goes from -5 to the left, what am I going to write? Less than or greater than? Less than, and since the original is underlined, this needs to be underlined, okay? X is less than or equal to -5. Please be careful if it's underlined or not, okay? What about the next one? So again, you can type it in, you can do brackets, 4 parentheses 1 minus 3 x parentheses minus 14 greater than or equal to 4 parentheses 2x plus 3 parentheses minus 9x. Before I end my bracket, it's already showing up. Now, I can kind of see it from here. It looks like it's above the second over, but yours should be expanded looking like this. But the end point is -2, and it goes to the left. So if it's at -2 and it goes to the left, we're going to put x, -2, to the left is less than, and since this is underlined, this will be underlined. Okay? Do you see how this works? Okay? Equations and inequalities have different rules. So let's recap. The front of the page, if you see an equal sign, you're going to type it with an N instead of an X, and you're going to use the squiggle, the tilde. It'll give you the answer in parameters. If you get a 0, you got to check if it's all real numbers or no solution. If it's an inequality, you just type it with an X inside brackets and check the graph, okay? So we have practice. There's a lot of practice here, and there's not a lot of room. You don't need room anymore because you're going to just do it straight in the Desmos. If you can do this by hand, on this one, I don't want to see it by hand. I want you practicing Desmos because when it comes time to test, I need you to know how to do this, even if you're just checking your answers, okay? Especially when it comes to the EOC test, map testing, testing for my class, anytime. Desmos is available. You can use these tips, all right? Now this is after you finished yesterday's assignment, but now you have a way to do yesterday's assignment easier, right? Okay, so you can use all these tricks on all the other assignments if you still need to turn them in or fix them, okay? But I'm gonna let y'all work.